Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Street is Watching. This is the Loud Lounge. My name is DJ Slim, and my next guest needs no introduction. The moment I say that, then you already know that I'm about to get into it. A tall list for you. Intro number one, I'll say this man is behind the success of greats like Mensa Prikiade, Abrewanana TikTok or Brafo. Not that alone. Make a go on. Yogi Dogi. XDO, Samini, Suyanfo, OD for VIP, KK for Supadogo, Reggie Rockstone, for Yamponsa, Kofi B, Kofinti, Nanaya Redu. The list is on and on and on. Charlie, apart from taxi drivers, trot drivers, if you are driving a car right now, say, whilst watching me, I beg, park and put your tools together for the one and only Sir David Bolton. Now, for people who don't understand, let me go into the CD inlay or the cassette inlay for one of the classic albums of all time. I'm talking about one of Brafo's album, Who Born You by Mistake. That song featured Bazaar, right? Produced and arranged by Hammer of the Last Two, recorded by Fifi Rash Coleman, and mixed by David Bolton and Hammer at DKB Studios. Now, I have the man in charge of DKB Studios in the building, if you do not know. Now, on to Dakrana, okay, I think one classic song, one classic VIP song, you will remember DKB Productions. Sir David Bolton is up in the building. Sir, welcome.
Oh, it's an honor to be here.
It's also
you make us shy. You make us shy.
No, but you're a legend. I've been telling the whole house about you. I mean, I've been telling them about. I mean, even from my end, what I know you've been able to achieve in a very, very wonderful career span. And I'd like to introduce you to my audience through this podcast. Because I believe, like I said earlier on, when we were having a conversation off, I said, like, as a music fan from Kumasi, there's little information that we had back then about who were the people behind the music and making sure it was being produced successfully. And there we have DKB Studios, being talked about highly in the industry. But it's like we have the front runners and we have people who are making it happen, but they are not talking like so much, they don't want to talk. And you're one of them.
Well, as I say, it is what it is.
How many years have you been in this business?
Man, I think professionally the first for it would have been like 1992.
1992.
Yeah. I'm an artist as well.
Yes.
So that time, I think we had the first. At that time, it was called PAFAM. I think before they changed it to Panafest.
Okay.
And if you remember, we had Public Enemy, Dionne Warwick,
yes,
Isaac Hayes,
yeah.
I think Jermaine Jackson, and Stevie Wonder came a bit later. He wasn't there for that show, but there was a huge show on at Independence Square. So I had actually produced my first EP at that point. So I performed at that show.
So you recorded and produced yourself?
Yeah. So we had a small studio in New Achimota those days in Accra. Yeah. So that was my first real experience of the Ghana music industry and performance, live performing and so on. And then through that, we obviously networked and met more people in the industry, and it kind of grew from there.
Okay, so this is like 1992. So 1992 to 2024, we're talking virtually over 32 or 30,
yeah. I mean, 92, I was 19 years old.
Oh,
I was 19 years old. Yeah.
And what was the motivation for? I mean, who influenced you into even starting to record?
Funny enough, I loved music from my childhood.
Okay.
One thing is I was born in the UK. Okay. My dad was Scottish, my mother's Ghanaian. So my mother left to the UK, I think in the late 60s.
Okay.
Met my dad in a mental hospital. Yeah. My mom was a nurse.
Okay.
And my dad was a tailor. So he used to make all the uniforms and the dresses for the patients and the nurses and so on. So they met in the mental hospital.
Wow.
So I ended up being born in London.
Okay.
And so I grew up there. And then in primary school, which is something we've lost in Ghana, music was compulsory.
Yes.
So by the time you were 6 years old, I think in class 2 in primary, you had to choose an instrument.
Okay.
So you had the choices like piano, flute, drums, whatever. So I chose violin.
Violin.
Yeah, violin.
Why?
I just loved the sound that came out of it. It's almost like it's like someone expressing themselves. It's like the saxophone too is like that.
Okay.
It's almost like a human being singing.
Okay.
That is so emotional.
Very mellow.
Yeah, exactly. So I loved the violin. So I took it up and then practiced, and then I became fairly good. I mean, they have different stages of exams. So when you get to a certain stage, you take a stage 1 and it goes up to stage 10. So I think I got up to stage 5 and that. So I was fairly good. And then I played in an orchestra as well.
Wow. In London?
In London, yeah. Wow. So that time I was in secondary school.
Okay.
And then we had an orchestra for the whole county. So I was in the orchestra. And
that's huge.
Yeah. So I learned a lot about harmony, and the fact that if you're in an orchestra, it's not about you alone. You're part of something much bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that taught me a lot about music theory and structure, arrangements, because you study all the classics like the Beethoven, Chopin, Tchaikovsky, all those, all those great classical pieces.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was from there. And I'm into computers.
Yes.
In fact, I think most people know me about
I know the software. Yeah, I know the software part of it.
The software part. So I remember one time, I must have been about 10 or 11 years old. My dad took me to a computer exhibition.
Okay.
And these were the days before the internet, way, way before the internet. This was probably the late 1980s.
1980s?
Yeah, late 1980s.
Okay. And what was the top brand of computer that was around?
Well, those times we had IBM.
IBM, okay.
IBM, we had Dell. Dell was
still active?
Yeah, Dell was now starting up, but it was becoming huge. I actually met the owner of Dell back then. And then Hewlett Packard, Olivetti, they were, a lot of them are still around. Still around now. And there was one stand where there was one man and he had a rack of synthesizers, keyboards, and then one computer. And then he was talking about this thing called MIDI, which stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface.
Yeah.
So I had no idea what it was, but then he hit enter on the keyboard, and then it started playing a whole symphony without him doing anything. He was controlling all of the instruments from that one computer. And it sounded so, so good. I can still, that feeling I had. Yeah. So that impacted me. And I said, no, this is the perfect opportunity. It's the marriage between technology and music.
Okay.
And that's when it was starting to be a thing. So that's when you had this synth, what they call now synth wave and synth pop. So you had those bands that were using synthesizers instead of live instruments.
Live instruments, yes.
And I thought, oh, wow, this is crazy. This is something that I have to get into.
And you had, as at that time, you had started with computers, right?
Yeah. I actually started a business when I was 12 years old.
You started a whole business?
Yeah. And then by the time I was 14, 15, it had grown, to something substantial. Yeah.
Wow. So when you saw those, when you saw the MIDI, right? You had started your computer business.
Yeah.
You had been introduced to computer. And how did that start for purposes of our viewers? I know how the story goes, but for our viewers, how did that start?
The computing thing started where I was 9 years old. And my dad got me it was a Christmas present.
Okay.
He bought me a computer, secondhand computer.
Okay.
My parents were not rich. In fact, we were quite poor, but my dad was somebody that really pushed me. So when he saw that I was interested in something, he put all of his resources into making sure that it happened.
That's nice.
So he bought me a secondhand computer. And for those of you, Google Sinclair ZX81.
Sinclair
ZX81. It's a tiny thing like this. It had 4 kilobytes of memory.
4 kilobytes of memory?
4 kilobytes of memory.
Wow. That's not even big enough to save a picture.
Exactly. No, it can't save a picture. Not 4 megabytes or 4 kilobytes.
Kilobytes.
Yeah.
It can't even save a picture.
No. 4 kilobytes is about 2 pages of A4 written paper.
Two
Don't
pages.
forget, those days there was nothing like pictures or sound. It didn't exist.
Wow.
You understand? It was just simple, very simple text.
Okay.
And I think I managed to get it expanded to 16 kilobytes, which was a huge thing back then. You know? So what would happen is they would have these magazines that came out every month, and they would have pages and pages of code.
Okay.
So you would have to type in that code line by line, and then make the program work.
Okay.
So I don't know whether it's intentional or not, but the code never worked. It always had bugs in it.
Okay.
So I suspect that they put those bugs in on purpose to try and get you to fix it.
Okay.
So you spend a lot of time trying to work out why it's not working, but you've copied exactly what the book said, and it's still not working. So that teaches you logic and how to understand how to program. So that's how I learned computers. Basically, I learned it on my own, how to program and all of that
through magazines.
Yeah, through magazines. Yeah.
Wow.
Back then, again, way before the internet.
Wow.
This was 81, 82.
1981.
Yeah.
Wow.
81, 82, around then.
And what was the first program that you were able to code?
So this continued for a while, and every time I outgrew the computer, my dad would find a way to replace it with a bigger one.
Okay.
Right. So it got to the point where I started doing small jobs for my dad's friends.
Okay.
You know, my dad was what we call in England, he was called an odd job man.
On job man.
Odd job.
Odd
so it
job.
means he can do everything. So he was a plumber, tailor, electrician, mason.
He's a hands-on guy.
Everything. That man could actually build a house and do the wiring, plumbing, and then finish it, paint it and everything. So when it came to like stuff in the house, we never hired anybody. He did everything. Wow. So he was doing work for, we were living in quite a rich area in England, in south of London called Surrey.
Okay.
And we were poor, but we were surrounded by rich people. So my dad would have these rich clients who were like friends. So some of them owned businesses, and that's when computing started becoming a thing.
Okay.
So people needed like spreadsheets, people needed documents typed, and that sort of thing. So my dad would introduce me, and I would start doing those small works. Okay. You get me? And then that's how I started making my first money. Okay. Maybe 50 pence, £1, £5, that sort of thing. And then it grew.
Okay.
It grew. So from there, and then very quickly, by the time I was 15, I was making £10,000, £20,000.
Wow.
You know, but
as at that time.
Yeah, as at that time, because I was now writing programs to run businesses.
Okay.
Yeah, writing programs to run businesses.
To run businesses. So what was the first program that you wrote?
The first major one was actually it was for a toy company.
A toy company.
Yeah, a toy company, and they sold. They're not in existence anymore. What happened is they would only operate around the Christmas time. Okay. So from about August, September, that's when they'll start getting ready, ordering all the stuff from wherever, China and US and all of that. And then they had all these agents who would hold parties. Okay. And in the parties, they would be selling their toys. And then they would send in the orders. And then they would have to fulfill the orders, ship it to them, track payments and all of that. So they needed a system.
Okay, that would be able to get all that.
Yeah. So what happened is they had actually paid a professional company a huge amount of money. And those days, I think they paid close to £100,000 back then.
Wow.
And they failed them. So they were desperate. So again, because my dad could talk. I mean, that man, God.
Professional marketer.
I tell you. So he managed to connect them to me. And then it was like, look, you're our last hope. I don't even think they believed I could do it. Okay. But truly, they had no option. And they had no money because they had spent everything. And now to get that money back, they're going to have to take these guys to court and it'll be a long process. So they told me, look, we've got £5,000. That's all we can afford. Okay. Now it's like £5,000 in my head. I couldn't even imagine that money. I was, 15 years old? In fact, 14 going on 15. So £5,000, that's like the whole world to me. But they said, you have just 2 weeks to do it because we have to start operations.
To put together software.
Yeah. And at that time I was in secondary school. So basically, I'll go to school, come back, write the software, and then I managed to do it within that time, within the 2 weeks, and it worked perfectly. I mean, even I don't know how I managed. Even when I look back at it now, because I knew nothing about inventory control, accounting, finances, all that sort of thing.
You had zero idea.
No idea.
And that is like a software for a pro.
Yeah. They were turning over, I think at that time, about £2 million a year. That's what they were turning over. So obviously it was critical to them, but it worked. It worked. And then because of that, I started getting famous. I was in all the newspapers. They called me the computer whiz kid and all of that. And then I was on radio every week, television, and then I started getting more and more business.
Great.
More and more business, yeah.
At the age of 15?
Yeah. So that continued until I was 16, going on 17. And then our local doctor, our family doctor, in fact, who my dad used to do work for. He used to maintain his cars, used to do some building works for him and all that sort of thing, maintaining the houses. He was a rich doctor. His father was a stockbroker. So it was a huge mansion.
Top level.
Yeah, top level. But nice guy, really cool guy. He was called Dr. Smith. He's passed away now. But he was so supportive. When he saw what I was doing, he was so supportive. And then he started investing in me.
Okay.
So where my dad couldn't afford, to take it further from there, he started investing in me and then giving me ideas. Okay. So one of the ideas he said is, okay, why don't you write medical software, which will run the clinics?
Okay.
So he took me to meet the Royal College of General Practitioners. We, did all the studies and everything. And then I created the software. So this software did things such as keep your medical records. It had a list of all the registered patients, your medical records, every drug you've been prescribed. And if let's say you're taking one drug and it conflicts with another one, the system will tell you that you can't mix this with that.
Wow.
And all those sorts of things. So, and then it had every single disease known to man was listed because it was codified. And then it had to then do screening. So if, let's say, those days, cervical cancer was a big thing. So they were trying to prevent cervical cancer by doing screening. So the system would have to then send out letters. Again, no emails those days.
Still no internet
was not a thing. This was 89 getting to 1990.
Wow.
So internet was not available widely. So it would actually have to send out what we call mail merge. It was called those times. So where it would take all the list of the women who were eligible for testing. It would then create the letter and then print the letter
and post it.
And then they post it to all the
Amazing.
So I did all of that sort of stuff, and then that made me a lot of money, I must admit.
How much are we talking about right here?
Oh, I made over £1 million back then. By that time, I was 17. Yeah.
Jesus.
Made over £1 million because it was we were selling it for £5,000 per installation.
Okay.
And then the cheapest one, my competitor, was £250,000.
That's the cheapest.
The cheapest one.
And you were doing it for £5,000.
For £5,000. Because I was doing it on a small, what we call a desktop computer.
Yeah.
Theirs was on a mainframe.
Mainframe computer, okay.
So it was so the doctors had to literally take a mortgage to afford those. It was a drug company called Ciba-Geigy,
okay.
A German company. They created it. So when they heard what I'd done, they set up a meeting. And I remember they sent a limousine. I think that's the one and only time I've sat in a limousine in my whole life. Sent a limousine, picked up my father and myself, drove us into the countryside. You see those movies where you see from the gates to the mansion, it's like
there's a big runway.
It was like that. You're driving, you get to the mansion. And that was their not their headquarters, but their retreat.
Okay.
Their retreat location.
Okay.
So they took us in, showed us around,
That's for the competition, right?
Yeah. And I was naive. I didn't understand.
They wanted to buy you.
That's what it turned out to be. So after they showed us around, showed us what they had, and then asked me to show them my software, I realized my software is actually doing more than theirs.
Yeah.
So they at that time too, I was still a minor.
Okay.
I was 17. So
Yeah.
I was not of legal age to even sign a contract.
Mhm.
So my dad had to represent me. So I remember they wrote a figure on a post-it, small post-it, pushed it over to him. £2 million.
£2 million for your software.
They wanted to buy it. Yeah.
You
They
had
wanted to buy
already
it.
made $1 million out of it.
Yeah.
And then they wanted to buy the software for £2 million.
Mm-hmm. So I asked, but why? You already have. Remember, I was a small boy. I was naive. But you already have this. Why do you want mine?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy, I remember, he's this typical white business executive in that time, maybe in his 50s.
Yeah.
Said, "Oh, we want to shelve it." I said, "What do you mean shelve it?" He
Just
said,
take it out of the
"Yeah."
market.
So he said, "Oh, you're competing directly against ours, and for the price you are charging, you are undercutting the market. You're spoiling the market, basically."
Yeah.
So I thought, but this doesn't make sense. And remember, I was not doing this for money.
You were just
I was just
interested
doing because I loved what I was doing. It just happened, the business side of it kind of just happened. It wasn't that I was chasing after money or anything. So I said, no. No, I'm not selling. And my father supported me.
Really?
100%, yeah. Because for him to, I think money didn't really mean much.
Say what?
See.
Be Ghana poppy. Because if you be Ghana poppy, £2 million.
Yeah. And this was 1990.
1990, £2 million.
So that now is probably worth about £10 million now. If you do the inflation and calculate.
Oh, I'm trying to think if you be my puppy, you will hold my head. I don't know.
But the funny thing is, just after that happened, then West Africa magazine. I don't know if you remember that magazine.
West Africa.
There was this magazine called West Africa.
Okay.
And it was printed, I think, in London, and then circulated in across the whole of English-speaking West Africa. They came. I did one interview on TV, a breakfast TV show, and that was the first time I mentioned that my mother was Ghanaian.
Oh,
okay. I'd never even thought about discussing it before,
Okay.
So it wasn't that I was hiding it. It's just it didn't come up. So I mentioned that my mother's Ghanaian, father was Scottish. Next day, I had a call my father rather had a call from the Ghana High Commission.
Oh,
yeah, that the High Commissioner wants to see you. This was after it was published.
Okay.
So that time there was no limousine. Ghana, I don't think we had limousines in Ghana. So I think we took a train up, went to the High Commission.
Okay.
And then
they wanted to have a meeting.
Yeah, they wanted to have a meeting. So it's like, oh, we're so proud of you, blah, 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 blah. And then said, Chairman Rawlings wants to congratulate you personally. He wants you to come to Ghana.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So this was in 1990, just like 3 months after these guys had offered me the £2 million.
Wow.
So I said, sure, okay, I was, all right. My dad was so excited. My mom was so angry. Because she's like, you're not going to Ghana.
Chairman Rawlings?
Yeah. Said, you're not going to Ghana. Because don't forget, the time she left Ghana was around the time Nkrumah was overthrown and Ghana was in a mess.
Okay.
So in her mind, Ghana was just a no-go area.
Okay.
But my dad loved Ghana.
Okay.
Any chance he got, he'll come. He'll come. And before that, I'd only been to Ghana twice as a child.
Okay.
So
was that with your mom or with your dad?
Both my parents,
okay.
Yeah, my mom and my dad. I think the first time I was 2 years. Second time I was, I think, 4 years. And then from that time to 17, had never been.
No trip to Ghana.
No trip. So I had some distant memories of Ghana, but nothing really stuck. So
did you make the trip?
Yeah.
To see Chairman Rawlings?
Yeah, made the trip. This was in 1990, end of 1990. Okay. Made the trip. And man, when I got here, Ghana Airways, by the way, 18 hours delayed. 18 hours delayed. So the flight
from England to Ghana.
Yeah. So flight finally got in at 2 a.m. At Kotoka.
Yes.
That time it was the old terminal.
Terminal 1.
Yeah. And it had been raining. I remember clearly. And then I stepped off that plane, and the way that it hits you. Yeah. That heat and humidity. Then they took me through VIP and all that, and then I got out of the VIP lounge, And there were like 200 people waiting for me. I was thinking, at 2 a.m., what are all these people? And they started screaming with flags and this and that. I was thinking, hey.
What's going on?
So I was like a superstar. And then before I realized it, they sent me straight to my hometown, which is in the central region. Otwam. Straight to my hometown. And my mother had warned me, and that's why she didn't want me to come to Ghana, that as soon as I come, they will install me as chief.
As chief?
Yeah.
Oh.
So that's what happened. So literally, straight from the airport, straight to my hometown. And there was no electricity that time in my hometown. No water. So they actually, the current chief at that time, who was my granduncle, actually abdicated for me to take over.
Wow.
Yeah, he abdicated for me to take over because they felt that they couldn't lose that opportunity. So so most people think, oh, are you a development chief or it's just because of your money? No, from the time I was about 8 years old, my mother told me, if you ever go to Ghana, they will install you as a chief. Because I was in line for it, yeah. But I was just confused,
So how was it like so they did actually install you as a chief?
Yeah. So I had to be in my hometown for some time. They had to perform all the ceremonies and rituals and all of that. It's I can't talk about it.
And this is at what age?
17.
17 years.
17. Yeah.
Wow.
17. So it was crazy. I mean, complete culture shock.
I'm trying to. So how was the feeling like? I mean, whilst all these things were unfolding right in you.
It was mixed feelings, right? Because there was no electricity in my hometown.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I met my cousins, my uncles, my aunties, and it's like, I didn't know I had this family and these people around. And, then I was carried in a palanquin around the town and
all the love.
Yeah, everything. And then I realized that these people actually love me for me.
Yeah.
And I'd grown up in the UK where at that time racism was open in the schools. They'll call you, they didn't use the N-word in England. They had other words like gollywog. Gollywog was and then coon and
coon. Coon.
Yeah,
I've heard coon.
And then all kinds of derogatory things they'll call you. And at that time, where I was, because it was an affluent area in England, I was the only black kid.
But you're not black.
You see, that's the problem. But there, once you have 1% black blood in you, you are black.
How can they see black in you?
You see. So over there, I'm a black man. When I come here, I'm a white man.
We're Bruni straight away. I don't know if I didn't. We are black men.
See, so that's the it's a weird feeling because I'm kind of in between.
Yeah.
So you don't quite fit
here. You don't quite fit
here, but at least here they love you for who you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas there it's a completely different story.
Wow.
Yeah. So that experience of being here, I was here for a month.
Okay.
I was supposed to be here for 2 weeks.
Okay.
I extended it to a month because they had set up all kinds of programs. I met Chairman Rawlings.
Okay.
I gave lectures in Legon, in Kolebu, and played all kinds of things. I mean, a 17-year-old kid lecturing professors and doctors and this, about IT and showing them the medical software and all of that. And it felt good. I must admit, it felt good. And I felt like I was home.
Okay.
Felt like I was home. So what happened is I went back, packed up my business, set all the affairs in order, and then set up business in Ghana.
So it was at that point that you decided to move to Ghana?
Yeah. I moved to Ghana. So this was end of 1990. Within 3 months, I was back in Ghana and then set up here.
So how was the meeting with Chairman Rawlings like?
Man,
the first time you met him?
Oh, it's. I still remember it. Those days I had long hair down to my back. I had a ponytail and things, so, like Michael Jackson style Jerry curls and all that. So I met him, and he was with PV Obeyne.
Okay.
Those times, PV O'Bain was the prime minister.
Yeah.
He was Chairman Rawlings. This was before the NDC.
Mm-hmm.
This was PNDC.
This is
times.
PNDC era
Yeah,
that we're talking
before
about.
the Fourth Republic. And then again, I had this laptop, which I brought down, showed him the software, showed him, and the way I explained it, said, nobody's explained computers, IT to him that way before, where he could understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously everybody, the more confusing you make it, the more money you can make.
Yes.
Yeah. So
if you can't convince them, confuse them.
That's it. So I made it simple. So he said, no, you have to come home and do your part, basically.
Okay, contribute.
So, contribute to the nation. And I truly felt part of something. Whereas there, I was always on the outside.
Yeah.
You get me? Always on the outside. Even to this day, I can't spend more than a week in the UK.
Why?
I just hate it. You know, you can feel the hatred from the typical British white person. You can feel it. And even now it's worse because of this whole immigration issues
stuff
and all of that. You know, they don't want you there. They don't want you there.
So when you see in recent times, and when you see a surge in, migration, people moving from Ghana to other parts of the world just to search for greener pastures, how do you feel, man?
I mean, you see,
you have done the opposite.
Yeah, but you see, if you haven't experienced it, you can't understand it.
Okay.
So I don't blame them at all, because if you've only seen the bad side, if you're experiencing the hardship here, and you see on TV, you see on social media, and you think everybody's driving nice cars, everybody has a nice house, and this, that, everybody is making good money in their jobs, right? But you go there and you talk to the average middle class person, they're not happy. They're not happy. They're stressed. You know, and they'll try and hide that stress by going to the pub. You see them always in the pub drinking to excess and going out and all this. You know, it's such a claustrophobic system. So when you talk to the average Ghanaian that's gone there and is there for maybe 2-3 years, most of them wish they were in Ghana.
Okay.
But you're making better money there.
Yes.
And you're able to send some small money back to your family here. Whereas if you're here, that'll be very difficult to do. You know, so you have to understand.
So it's like a sacrifice. You want to sacrifice.
It's a big sacrifice. Most of them are not happy, but they're doing it because they feel it's the best of a bad situation. You know, so that's what we have to try and turn things around here, because I'm sure you talk to almost every Ghanaian outside, whether it be US, Germany, or UK, they all have plans of building here and coming back.
Yes. Most of my friends, most of my friends that I have, everybody's thinking of an exit plan, and the exit plan involves settling in Ghana. And I'm like, why would you want to come here? It's
exactly.
That's how it is.
Yeah.
But at what point, when you came back 3 months after your first thing with Ghana, when you came back, at what point did music pop up again in your path?
It was there all along, because when I came, the first thing I did was I had a contract to computerize the airport.
Okay.
So
first contract.
Yeah. So that's another interesting story, that there was a tender.
Okay.
Right. So I put in my bid, and then they selected another company.
Okay.
That time it's called Wang. There was this company called Wang.
Wang.
WANG. They were a huge global company. And they had bid $7 million for the contract. My bid was, I remember specifically, it's $298,000.
Hey.
That was my bid.
And
I lost.
You lost?
I lost. So when Rawlings, remember, this is before the days of democracy.
Okay.
Rawlings got to hear about it because the board members of Ghana Civil Aviation those days obviously reported to him directly.
Okay.
But there were some elements there who selected this one. But then the other elements said, no, but this is wrong. So when they saw the huge difference, $7 million against less than 300, for basically the same thing.
Okay.
Basically the same thing. So I remember he called me to the castle. Those days he was living in the castle, and he had some small cubicle. It's like half the size of this room, half the size. That was where he was living.
Okay.
Called me in, called the board chairman, and then said, "Look, if you don't sign this contract by 12 midday the next day, I'm dissolving the board, sacking you all."
Simple.
Tema
Rawlings.
See how quickly they signed the contract.
Simple.
Next day, within 2 days, I think they paid the money. I was on a plane to UK to go and order the equipment.
Easy.
Simple. And that was the sort of thing that was going on and still goes on to this day, where you have contracts just overinflated. We are paying 10 times more than we should do for things. And it's just going into the pockets of you know who. You know,
wow.
And so it's not just a new thing. Even during the days of the
PNDC was still there.
Corruption was there. Was there.
And they were not even afraid of the military.
They were. They were because they were, you see, when they knew that if they were caught, they would be severely dealt with.
Okay.
Yeah. Whereas now there's impunity.
Yeah.
Because everybody's doing it. But those days, it was very, very under the carpet.
Yeah.
But now it's like quite limited. Yeah. So even though it was there, because it's human nature, corruption is everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, so don't believe that when you go to London, you don't have corrupt police, you don't have corrupt. They're all corrupt.
Yeah.
We're all corrupt unless you have
one form.
Unless you have laws and enforce those laws. The human being wants to. We want the shortcut.
Yeah.
Me, I want shortcuts, but me, I'm afraid of getting caught. So I won't do it because I don't want the repercussions of having my name destroyed, the reputation and all of that. I don't want that. So I'll rather stay in my lane, just do what I have to do, make a comfortable living, and then continue. So anyway, to your question, during that time, I'd also bought some studio equipment from the profit of the contract.
The airport deal.
Yeah. And then brought that down. And I already had some from my time in the UK.
Okay.
So I set up a studio in Ghana at that time. This was 1991.
Okay.
91. And it was 92 that we had the Panafest.
Okay.
Pafam show. So at that time, I think after the Pafam show, I met Kiki Jan.
Okay.
From
Osibisa.
Yeah. And man, that guy could play. Yeah.
He was playing on the keyboard, right?
The keyboard. When he touches that keyboard, it's like an angel playing. I mean, the talents he had at his fingertips. And it's not like he was even trying. Normal. And that was after he had been kicked out of Osibisa, the drug issues and all of that. So he ended up actually staying with me at New Achimota for about 6 months. Okay,
so you had the studio at New Achimota. Yeah. And you also staying in the same facility.
Yeah, so I set up the studio in the garage, basically. It was just in the garage.
Wow.
So we were recording, nothing serious, just playing around recording. I met Atongo also. So he also used to come and record and all of that. So it was, we were just playing around from that time until the late 90s. And then I went back to the UK. A few things happened. I was accused of rigging the 1992 elections.
Why?
Because I was a computer whiz kid, computer genius. So 1992 elections came. The talk in town was that Rawlings brought me
from UK to
rig the elections.
How?
Well, people didn't understand. Again, no internet still. You understand? People didn't understand this stuff. So as far as the MPP, the whole hierarchy of the MPP knew, I was brought in and I rigged the elections.
You used computer to rig it?
Yeah, used computer to rig it.
But were they counting on computers?
They were using computers. Yeah.
Okay.
They were using computers to collate the
results.
Yeah. And what actually happened is I was hired by GBC those times. What they did is they conducted a poll, as they do in all elections now. So they conducted a poll to see who would win the elections. So they gave us piles and piles of data, which at that time is all on paper. And I had a small contract to just feed in all the information and produce the
results.
The results, not the results of the election, no, the results of the poll.
The poll. Okay.
And in the poll, the MPP was ahead.
Okay.
that was the ironic thing. The MPP was ahead by some points.
Okay.
Because of that, it then became translated that I rigged the election. So I got death threats. I was chased by cars. I was all sorts of things. So it got to the point in 96, the elections were coming again.
Yes, because so 92.
So 92 was the first one. So next set was 96.
96, yeah.
So the word was that they had to take me out.
Because if they don't take you out, you're going to rig it again.
Yeah, exactly. So they had to take me out.
And so that is supposed to be a threat coming from the opposite party.
Yeah.
So the MPP felt that you were a threat. They felt that you were working for the NDC.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. That was the impression, unfortunately. So I actually had to leave the country.
Wow.
I remember I went to see Rawlings one evening, and they wanted to give me police protection and all of that, and I wasn't comfortable. You know, I didn't see. At that time, I was still. This was 96, so I was about 23 at that
23-year-old boy.
23 years, yeah. And so I didn't see why. You know. Yeah. Crazy.
So, and the 1992 election, you were that should be like
92. I was 19.
So you're 19 years, and they said that there's a 19-year-old boy in Ghana who's rigging.
Don't forget, I was known as the computer whiz kid.
So it wasn't even about the age. Hey, Ghana,
so, because you know, if you don't understand something, if somebody tells you this, you believe it.
Yeah,
you believe it. You know, because ignorance is a powerful thing if it's used by the wrong people. You know,
exactly.
So I had to leave in 96. And I was in the UK for, I think, about 3 years.
Okay.
So I actually set up a business again there and was making very good money back then again.
Okay.
But and then what I would do is I then invested and set up a studio in London.
Okay.
So we set up a studio in, there's a place in London called Hackney. And that's where a lot that's where a lot of the Jamaicans, the Caribbeans and Ghanaians were at that time. So it was a very black area, which was in contrast to where I grew up. But there was a lot of crime, a lot of issues. But I met a nice group of Jamaicans who had a community center, and they were into music, reggae music, and all of that. And I don't know if you ever heard of this group called Aswad.
Aswad, yeah.
They had this song, "Don't Turn Around." Yeah. They had a huge number one hit. They were there.
They were in Hackney.
They were in the community center.
Okay.
So they had the band members and all the other. So it was music. The whole place was music.
Okay.
And weed.
Of course.
So I set up the studio there, and every month I was buying more and more equipment, and it became a very well-known studio in Hackney.
Okay.
And then after around the end of 99. I said, no, I want to come back to Ghana.
Okay, but you're still the chief in your hometown.
Yeah, still the chief. Yeah.
And they were calling you when they needed
I would still come back.
Okay.
I would still come back, because after the elections, we realized that things had cooled down.
Okay.
And I think people are now starting to understand that it wasn't true about me rigging the elections and all of that. So things kind of died down after a while. So I still came back 2 or 3 times a year around that time. And end of 99, I said, no, I can't deal with this country again. That's the UK.
UK.
You know what made me?
What was the breaking point for you? Breaking point.
I was walking from my parents' house to Croydon. There's this town center called Croydon.
Yeah.
So there's a park that I was walking. It's about 30-minute walk. Then I got to one of the lanes, and there was this old white woman coming towards me. She looked at me and she was scared. I mean, she was scared that I was coming to rob her or something. So I had to cross the road and then go my way. Just so that she didn't, And I thought, hey, why am I here? So, if you see the look on her face, man, I mean, and that's when you realize that it's just part of who they are. You understand?
It's not even about the color.
the racism is built into them.
Wow.
It's built. They have the stereotype. If you're not white, you're not right. Basically.
Okay. If you're not white, you're not right.
Uh-huh. So I said, no, that's it. I'm coming back. I don't care what, damn the consequences. So that's when I actually came back and brought all the equipment. And we set up. That's when DKB Studios became DKB officially in the end of 99.
Okay.
That's when DKB production started.
It's still in New Achimota?
No. That time we were in Dansuman.
Okay, you had moved to Dansuman.
So I moved to Dansuman.
Okay.
Around Snit Flats area.
Okay.
Yeah. So set up there and then just started doing some small.
The first artist that you recorded at DKB Studios?
I can't remember the first artist we recorded, but the first song that I heard on radio, which we produced was Exdo.
Exdo. Which song?
Gogo.
Gogo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gogo.
Uh-huh.
I
remember clearly because that song, and we had fun making that song.
That's a masterpiece.
Yeah, we had fun making that song. Yeah. So it was actually a sample that Exdo brought from what they called beach. Is it Beechcraft or Beachcombs? It was a.
I think I've heard.
The original one. Yeah.
I think I've heard.
So he brought that. He said, "I want the same thing." I said, "Okay, but we have to change it up a bit because you can't just copy and sample." So we took the hook and then we changed the drums.
Okay.
We added some horns and things, and then he did his thing on top.
Wow.
With is it Nkase who was on that track with him?
Gogo.
Yeah.
Gogo was just Exdo or Nkase?
No. Nkase was on
Nkase
it.
also.
Yeah.
Also
and
on
then
it.
Pricky also featured on it.
On that same song?
Yeah, Pricky Adi featured on that song.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If you listen to it, he featured on it.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
Man, you can remember all these things.
I remember.
Yeah. So I remember when we finished that song, and then I think it was Exto. He was smart. He had Kwame Mickey. And he had I think not Goodies. Who's the other one? Precise
Music.
And he was like selling to everybody.
So he sold the cassette right to somebody and the CD right?
He sold to 2 of them. And then I think, was it Kwame Mickey? I can't remember exactly who. I think it was Kwame Mickey. Made the biggest deal.
Okay.
So Extrio just took the money. He took the money and then disappeared to the US. That was it. Disappeared to the US up to now.
So he gave some 2 music producers the rights to produce the cassette.
He was
just playing the 2 of them.
He was playing the 2 of them, and then I think Kwame Mickey came up with the biggest. Yeah, I mean it's business. So.
But this era is not the CD era. This is the cassette era, right?
This was the cassette now coming to CD era.
Okay.
So cassette was the main thing. They started producing some CDs, but it was just a small number.
Okay.
But it was cassettes.
Okay.
Primarily cassettes. And it was Cantamanto.
Yes.
Yeah, Cantamanto. That's where you go and then you get all the stuff.
And so from Exdo, I think one of the let me ask you. Some of the artists that passed through your studios, right? The relationship between DKB Studios and Hush Hush,
that came later.
That came later.
Yeah. What happened is, whilst we were still at Dansuman, that time I had also made 2 songs which I'd shot videos for, my own music.
Yes.
And it was Abraham Ohinijan who shot it.
I was about to ask you, at what point did Cyphex Digital come in and transform to OM Studios? Because most of the DKB production, Abraham Ohinijan, let me big up to my uncle. That's my uncle.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Big up. Uncle Ebi, more fire chairman. He's going back to the UK though.
He comes and goes.
Yeah.
He comes and goes. I think he gets fed up there, comes here, gets fed up here, and goes back. It's understandable.
It is what it is. Happy belated birthday to Uncle Ebi though. I mean, I think he celebrated the birthday a couple of
Yeah.
So at what point did they come in? Like, and how was the merger like?
So that 99 is when I shot that, in fact, 2 videos. So Abraham shot both those videos and he shot it on film, which was very unusual. The only video he had shot on film was for Reggie Rockstone at that time. I've forgotten the track.
Keep Your Eyes on the Road?
Yes, I believe so. So he had shot on film. So I'd come from, at that time I was still in the UK. This was early 99. And I'd actually got a record deal in the UK.
Okay.
So the company said, okay, fine, go and shoot the videos in Ghana. So I came, and then that's when I met Eddie. Yeah, Abraham's brother. Yeah. And Eddie Ranks.
Now he's into sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's into huge, sound.
Yeah, huge sound systems. Yeah. So then, so that's when I met Abraham through Eddie, and then he shot the videos for me. Okay. And those videos went on to be shown on Channel O for like 3, 4, 5 years. They were just shown for years, because I was surprised. They all over Africa. You're getting the mileage. Yeah. Had a huge mileage on those videos, because he had shot it so well. And it very few videos met those standards for that time. It was a Mnet. Before they turned to DSTV.
Charlie.
Times have changed there. Yeah, times have changed. So because of that, I formed a relationship with Abraham, and Abraham was producing Obrafo.
Okay.
And Tic Tac.
Yes.
And Yogi Doggy. So when I set up the studios here, I said, okay, fine. I have this young producer, and the music is some way, but he thinks it has potential. That was Hammer.
Okay.
So work with Hammer, right? Make sure that the work is up to standard. So Hammer, that time it was Slim and Deep.
Slim
so
and
the last
Deep.
two.
That's the last two.
Yeah.
Slim and Deep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So Hammer was slim, ironically. I met Hammer just yesterday. He's not slim anymore.
No, far from slim. So just Deep, like DJ Slim.
So Deep was is he Arnold or Arnoff? I've forgotten. I think it's Arnoff. And
Panji.
Man,
that's Panji.
No, not Panji.
Okay.
Not Panji. Arnoff. No, he was Arnold, I think it was called. But that guy, man, he could play melodies.
Okay.
So Hammer was great with the drums.
Okay.
The rhythm section and getting the feel. And then Deep would come and lay the melodies down and all that. And then that's when we're working on the Who Born You by Mistake, the Asam Sebe, all those sorts of things.
So that's the Asam Sebe album, right?
That album, yeah. And then TikTok's album, Tic Tac.
Yes.
TikTok. Tic Tac's album back then. I've forgotten the name of the album, crap. And then
the Philomena album?
No, the one after.
That is Masum.
Yes. Oh. So that was the album. I worked on those two albums, and then Yogi Doggy, also his album. So those are the three artists from Cyphex. That was before it became OM.
Before it became OM Studios, okay.
So it was later on that Abraham was like, okay, fine, let's work closely together. So I moved the whole studio, and let me not forget to mention my man Rush, because he was instrumental in this. We'll talk about him.
Because at what point did Rush come into the?
Rush was there from the very beginning.
Okay.
That show in 92.
He was there.
He was a dancer on that show.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was one of my dancers on that show from 92. Yeah, so I've been with Rush from the beginning. So what happened is my wife, she would become my wife later on, but I needed a dance set up for a dance group for the show, because it was just me. So there's this jazz musician, Jimmy Beckley. I don't know if you heard it.
No.
He plays sax, and so he used to have a jazz club in Tessano. So I used to sing there.
Okay.
So I told him I need dancers. So he said, oh no, he has somebody. So he introduced me to Mercy, who basically had a dance group. She used to dance for Lumba, for Charles Amwa, all the top artists, and she had contracts with GBC and all that. So she organized the group, and Rush was one of the dancers of the group.
Okay.
So that was it. And then we ended up getting on so well. Rush ended up working with me at the computer school. I set up a computer school as well in 1992. So Rush was, because his background was electronics, so he handled the hardware.
The hardware bit of it.
Yeah, so he was a teacher at the school handling hardware, but he also loved music.
Wow.
So
so that is so he would later start recording the artist, right?
Exactly. So what happened is, because I realized he loved music so much, I sent him to London to go for training.
Okay.
So he went and did sound engineering.
Okay.
In the UK. So he did that for a few years. So that by the time we came, so he was running the studio in Hackney, the one with the reggae artist and all that. He was running that. And that's where we recorded Pricky Yardy's first album. We actually flew him to London for about 6 months, and he recorded everything there.
You signed Pricky Yardy?
Yeah.
To DKB?
That time, we didn't even call DKB, but we signed him anyway.
Okay, so you flew him to London?
Flew him to London
to record Obaben and I'm Kwanso
Bay. Yeah. So that album was produced by a guy called Colin McNeish. He's a Jamaican. So he produced that whole album, and we sent Pricky for vocal training, voice classes and all that. So he had proper training. And then he had the top producer. Those days, there was this artist called Glamour Kid. I don't know. I
think I've heard.
Glamour Kid. He was a dancehall artist, top 10 dancehall artist in UK. Do you remember Shola Ama?
Yes.
Shola Ama. Shola, he had a song with Shola Ama, Sweetest Taboo.
Sweetest Taboo.
Yeah. That's it. It was a Sade cover, and then they did a dancehall version of it. Yeah. So he was the same producer for Glamour Kid. So that's how we ended up getting that sound for Pricky's album. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I learned a lot from Colin, because Colin would train me on mixing techniques, recording techniques, and all of that. And Rush also learned a lot. And Colin was touring. He's a bass player.
Okay.
But he was touring with Michael Jackson, I think Madonna, a couple of other big artists. There's this reggae artist, Terence Trent D'Arby. Those times, huge. So he was like top in the industry. Yeah. So Pricky really had, he had the best of the best.
But what happened to Pricky?
It's
issues there. I don't know.
No, the issues are not there anymore. But sometimes when something blows up too fast, and we're not ready for it, you understand? So I think that's really what happened. The song just took on a life of its own. That's Obafefefe. I mean, the whole album was fire, but that particular song,
too big.
We shot a video for that, and I think it went to his head as well. So started saying, no, I can't perform here. I'm too big for this and that. You get me? So and then it became a fight and all that. But so for a long time, but funnily enough, we released a song together just this year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's called Rockavelli. So we released a song just this year. So for a long time, we fell out. But a couple of years ago, it's like, we were young. We didn't really know what was going on,
So is he in Ghana right now?
He's in Canada right now.
Oh, okay.
He's in Canada, but he was here. He just left recently, but he's in Canada right now.
Pricky Yardy.
Pricky Yardy. The funny thing is, to date, if you drop that song anywhere,
no, DJs still date have some weird, like some cool way of putting the song in a mix, and the bass.
Yeah. The trick. That's what I learned from Colin.
Tell me.
The fewer the elements, the better, because they make more impact.
Okay.
And you know who else that used to do that? Babyface. If you listen to Babyface's productions, just a few elements. You have your kick, your snare, your bass, a couple of instruments, and let the vocal do everything else.
Okay.
And when you don't have too many elements, what you do have then becomes impactful.
Okay.
But if you flood it with too many things, Exactly.
A trip to another.
Exactly. Yeah. So now that's what we've lost. You know, that understanding that less is more. Sometimes our productions are just loaded with too much stuff that doesn't fit together.
Okay, so apart from Pricky, which other artists or did you sign?
Oh, so
because I heard of VIP.
Yeah, there was VIP.
You signed VIP.
Yes, but then we hand VIP over to Goodies.
You handed VIP over to Goodies.
Yeah, because we realized that we didn't have what it took to distribute and promote. You get me? Our strength was in the production.
Okay.
Getting the right sound, getting, so for the market. But our strength was not in distribution. In those days, distribution, you had to print cassettes, CDs. You had to go around the country.
Yes.
And all of that. And we did it with Pricky.
Okay.
It was a success. But then I think because of the way we fell out, I kind of lost the taste.
You lost interest in it?
Yeah, I lost the taste for it. Because we went all over the country with him.
Wow.
Yeah, so we focused purely on the production.
Okay, so with VIP, how was it like?
Man, that was an experience.
Because this is the time that VIP had over like...
There were 5 at that time.
5?
Yes, there was Friction, Bone, Promzy, Prodigal, and Lazy.
Okay, 5 members.
Yeah, there were 5
but
members.
They were moving like crazy. When they move around in town.
Oh yeah.
It was
those
crazy.
Guys. And they had a manager stroke bodyguard. I think it was he called Carmel? I think Carmel. I mean, some huge built guy. And these guys,
it was crazy.
You don't want to get on the wrong side of them. I mean, they had the whole of Nima behind them. And by the time we were working with them, they were already big. Because Nana King had already produced.
Okay, that was
I think 1 or 2
Ashanti
albums.
International.
Yeah,
right?
Ashanti International. Yeah. So they I think they wanted to try a different sound. Okay. So that's when they came to us.
And which of their songs did you start with?
I think we did Lumbe Lumbe Lumbe.
Lumbe.
Yeah. So we took a sample from Mario Brothers.
So Super Mario, right?
Yeah, Super Mario. That's it. Then I can't remember most of the tracks. There was obviously the big hits.
Ahunkawo.
Yeah.
So you produced Ahunkawo?
Yes.
Wow.
So
no wonder. Time is peace.
Yeah. So
and Sirkakra. Was it Sirkakra? I think Sirkakra was.
No, that was not us.
That's not you.
Us. Yeah.
Okay.
That was not us.
But you did a whole album.
We did the whole album. Yeah.
That is the Ahunkawo album.
Was it called? To be honest, I can't remember.
You can't remember.
I can't remember the name of the. I can't remember the name of the album. But the big hit was the one where it's a DKB Productions. Damn. Yeah. That was the biggest. That was the biggest hit. That was the biggest hit.
How was it like working with them?
It was challenging. Let me put it like that. And Rush he's called Rush for a reason. So Rush knew how to deal with them at their level.
Okay.
The fights.
They will fight.
The fights in the studio. Man. I mean,
physical
fights. So when it happened, Rush will, and at that time, Rush was a bodybuilder as well and all that. So he would just pull them apart, sack them from the studio.
Why were they fighting? Like, what are some of the things that they will fight about?
At that time, the group was actually about to break up. So there was already tension.
Okay.
There was tension. The first to leave was Bone.
Bone left.
He left first. He went to France.
Okay.
And then Friction, as the name suggests, he because he was technically the leader of the group. But Promzy was the talent.
Okay.
You understand? So Promzy Promzy wrote the hooks.
Okay.
So he was the main guy, I think, when it came to writing the songs.
Okay.
So there was that friction between the two of them.
Okay. Yeah. So friction between Promzy and Friction.
Exactly. So it got to the point where Friction said, "No, I'm leaving the group." So halfway through the album, he left.
Wow.
He left. So we lost 2 members of VIP during that project.
And then it was left with Lazy,
Promzy, and then Prodigal.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just left with them. So yes.
And how are you able to complete the album?
No, well, we had done a lot of the tracks already.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think when Bone and Friction left, then things calmed down. So they focused on finishing up and all that. So that's when we handed over the project to Goodies.
Okay.
So Goodies paid us off and then took them over, and then did all the distribution, promotion, and all of that. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back at some of the artists that you've worked with, I'm talking about Pricky and VIP. Let's just focus on these two. What do you think were their biggest tool in the market? What was it that their biggest advantage in the market?
I think with VIP, it was the energy.
Okay.
The energy. They had something about them when they're on stage, and even in the videos.
Mm-hmm.
They were representing an American lifestyle.
Okay.
Right. So I think people related to them in the same way they relate to Shatta Wale today.
Okay.
They were like the people's
yeah.
group. You see, when they pulled up in Nima, or they had Salafest and all of that. Man, they were superstars. They were superstars. Pricky was more. It was more about the talent. There was no real dancehall artist. This was before Samini.
Yeah.
It was before Terry Bone Chaka.
Yes.
Before all of that. You see, he was really the first dancehall artist who was singing in tree and all of that. So it was new. It was different.
But why would you want to take a chance and not record or sign a high life artist, but rather sign an artist who's doing dancehall? This is like
we did high life as well.
Okay, so,
the first person we actually signed was Felix Owusu.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was even before we set up the studio.
Okay.
So this would have been 94, around 94. We signed Felix Owusu.
Okay.
And then we got Charles Amwa to be he brought me as the producer. So Charles Amwa produced
for Felix
Owusu.
Okay. And as at that time, wasn't DKB?
No, that time we were not DKB.
Okay.
Yeah.
But why would you want to sign a dancehall artist as at that time? What did you see in the market that,
Again, all of this was not about the money. And it was not about the market. That's the thing.
It was about having fun.
It was about following your passion.
Okay.
You see, and I think that's what's lost with a lot of the musicians today.
Yeah.
It's about following your passion, and everything else will
fall in line.
Yeah, come along with that.
Okay.
Yeah, someone like Samini, Batman those days. The guy, he was just following his passion. VIP, they were not about the money. Yeah, they were not about the money. Yes, the money came and all of that, but it was about doing what you love doing. And it wasn't, and it was about the fact, recognizing that they had the talent. It was already part of them.
Yeah.
Whereas today, you have a lot of so-called artists who just want to be famous.
Yes.
They don't have that natural talent, and they're relying on technology to sound presentable.
And they want to build their looks as well. Because everything is out for grabs.
Yeah.
This time around, everything is out for sale, so they can just buy the looks and then be that way. But you've seen, as an artist yourself, you've seen music take different forms of life in Ghana.
Yeah.
You've seen the transition, everything in there. What would you say has been or would be, let me put it this way, what do you think we've lost that needs to be brought back? And what do you think we need now that is more futuristic that we need to stretch and grab it?
That's a really deep question. I think the thing we've lost is variety.
Variety.
Right? Because if you look at back in those days with the hip life movement, hip life was a genre.
Yeah.
But there were so many sounds.
Yeah.
So many different sounds. You had Zap Mallet. You had Ashanti International. You had there were Slim Buster.
Slim Buster.
Yeah. You had
zoom, zoom, zoom.
Yeah. So every studio had its sound.
Yeah.
You get me? So there was, and obviously Hammer.
Yes.
You had, there was so much variety, but it all had this connection with hip life, with the rap. And that going on. And then you had stuff like Mensa was doing, it was all different. Whereas now it's all become very generic. Right now everybody's jumping on Amapiano. Everybody. It's like, Afrobeats is all sounding one way, the same drum pattern, the same elements, the same presets they're using. One of the problems is Fruity Loops.
Okay.
Right, FL Studio. I still call it Fruity Loops because back then.
Yeah, it's Fruity Loops.
Yeah, FL Studio is a very good DAW. It is one of the best, right? But it is designed to be very easy to use.
Okay.
Right? So if you just use it as it's designed to be easy to use, you just pick a preset. You won't bother to what we call sound design. Okay. You want to make a sound that is unique, that hasn't been heard before.
Okay.
You understand? But with FL Studio, you have your presets. And because everybody wants to sound like the previous hit or the hit that's in now, they're also picking the same presets. The same drum sounds, the same log drum if it's amapiano, the same snares, the same mallets, all those things. So it's making stuff sound very dull and boring. It's all very much the same thing. So now I'm sure as a DJ, right now it's so easy to mix. So you cry. I'm sure you're bored when you're playing a lot of stuff
all you have to do is just pick the song. It will automatically mix with the next one.
Exactly. Even
no need for you to be creative.
That's it. Yeah. Chord progressions are the same.
Yeah.
It's predictable. You understand? And I think the big problem with it is, one, you can't blame the musicians. You can't blame the producers because they don't have a foundation, a musical foundation. Right? If you remember, I said, I was forced to choose a musical instrument at school and learn music theory.
Yes.
So I understand all about the theory, frequencies, how things fit together, harmonies, progressions, how you make certain emotions come out with certain sounds and all of that. They've not been taught this. So yes, some of them will naturally get it, but the majority of them, they don't have that foundation. So they're doing the best they can do with what they have. Yeah. And some of them are doing amazing work, I must say. Some of them are doing really groundbreaking work. But the majority are just trying to follow the crowd.
Do you blame quote unquote commerciality, or do you would you say that is a
well, it's hard to even call it commerciality now because 95% of artists are not commercial. They're not making a living. Okay. That's the reality.
95% of them.
They're not making a living. I mean, truly, you can take maybe the top 10 artists in this country, if you're talking about the current generation of artists that are actually making what you call a living from music. The rest, really, a lot of it is it's about showing off, borrowing somebody's car, renting a car, renting this. It's not real. It's not real. So it's only the likes of the Sax, the Stone Boys, the Shatawalis, and
they
some
are
of the
ones
others
that are really doing it.
Yeah, and that's why you see them at every show.
Because they are the ones really.
Yeah.
So what do you think we need to stretch for?
I think one is the long-term goal would be to bring back music as part of our studies. It should be part of our education.
Yeah.
Because it helps you in so many other areas. Right? If you learn music at school, it doesn't mean you have to be a musician.
Yes.
But one, it makes you appreciate what goes into music.
Exactly.
Right? Because the younger generation the average person that doesn't get involved in the industry has no idea what it takes to make a song. They have no idea. So that's why they can't appreciate a good song from a bad song. They can't differentiate it.
Exactly.
Because they don't have that grounding to understand it. So everything, once it makes you feel some way, then is cool. It's a good song. But if you listen to the great songs, right, and don't get me wrong, there are still great songs being made today.
Yes.
If you listen to some of, as I say, Sax stuff, Stone Boy stuff, there's great music being made, right? But the majority of it now is not so great music.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not so great.
What makes a song great?
It's a combination of things. I mean, one, you have to be in touch with, I think, the times. Um, obviously, lyrics, and it's interesting. Music, depending on who you are, you have a different part of the music that's important to you. One of my friends, it's all about the lyrics.
Okay.
It doesn't matter how good, how danceable, or how interesting music is. If the lyrics don't speak to him, he's not interested.
Okay.
Yeah. Others, it's about the drums. The drums have to move them.
Yeah.
Others too, it's about the melody.
The melodies in the song.
Yeah. So it's all those things together that I think makes a great song.
Okay, so in recent times, there's this high conversation around music being a language, because and language being a language.
Yeah.
Is music a language, or is language a language? And this conversation has sparked a lot of debate on so various social media platforms. Even myself and the boys in my WhatsApp group, we are still arguing on this. Yeah. I believe that music, there are several elements to it, like you said. I mean, the melodies. Be it the instrumentation, every type of instrumentation in there being part of the melodies, right. And also the vocal melodies also adding up to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Then the vocals also contribute by speaking the lyrics or getting the lyrics out. Then the whole package, mixing, mastering,
right.
that part for it to be, or for the sound to be audible and appealing. That to me would be the complete package.
Yeah.
However, we live in a country where there are songs dominating in our chart that we do not understand, but we produce songs that we understand, but then can't cross over to other territories.
Yeah, yeah.
So now the conversation is like, oh, Charlie, when a song, is it that we are not speaking to them, or they are not understanding us? I hope you get what I'm trying to say.
I get you.
Is it the language, or our melodies are just not right? Because some say that for us to get there, we need to be singing in English. Some believe that. Some also believe that, there are songs that are in our territories, in our clubs right now. We don't understand. I struggle to understand a lot of Amapiano these days.
Right.
The last time they told me that Jerusalem is a gospel song, and I never knew. We've been doing bad things with that song. Yeah, but so I'm thinking melodies have a way. I believe melodies have a way of connecting to people. You don't need to understand it. At that point, you can say music is a language. But there are other art forms of music, like rap, where you need to understand the lyrics of it for you to appreciate it more. I mean, the spoken word part of it. You need to. I'm thinking that is when language becomes a language. I don't know about you. What do you think?
I would say that music is spirit.
Okay.
Right. I wouldn't say music is a language. Music is spirit. You can hear a song and it will instantly transform you. It takes you away from where you are. You remember a certain time of your life, or a certain, maybe a group of friends you had at that time, a place you were. The moment you just hear that song, it transforms you, and takes you back. And it happens to me all the time. I mean, there are certain songs, and it doesn't have to be old songs. It could be even songs from a couple of years ago, or even a song last year. For me, if I listen to, let's say, Timbaland, there was a time he did that song. Is it called The Way I Are, or something? The Way You Are.
With Justin Timberlake? Oh.
Yes. He's in there. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that song. As soon as I hear that song, I remember the car I was driving at that time. I remember the places I was going. I remember the girlfriends I had. And that whole it just takes you instantly back there.
Yeah.
So music has that spiritual element to it that can just, and that's why you have some of these artists that have been around for 50 years who are still
Actively.
active. They
Yeah.
still have their fan base
Mm.
because it has become part of your life.
Mm.
Their songs have become your life.
Mm.
So the moment you hear that, it takes you back. It's like it locks you in to a certain part of your life. It doesn't necessarily even have to be a great song.
Okay.
Yeah, it could just be
Any song.
I'm sure One Corner. A lot of people, if they hear One Corner, they remember.
Yeah.
You know, they remember their girlfriend. They remember you, you get me. So they remember the parties they went to where everybody was dancing like mad people. So it's for me. I think music is a spirit.
Okay.
So as I say, everybody takes something different. But what I always tell the artists I work with is that it's called a record, right? I'm going to make a record. That's what's it's not they don't say it much here. They say, oh, here is a banger. I'm doing a banger. No, it's a record.
A record. Okay.
It is freezing a moment in time.
Okay.
Yeah. Bob Marley's been dead for what, 40 years?
Yeah.
He still speaks to us. He still speaks to the 10-year-old who has no idea who Bob Marley is or was. Michael Jackson, you can have a 5-year-old kid dancing Michael Jackson moves now to his music. The man has been dead for what, 15 years?
Yeah,
or something?
15 more.
But his spirit still is transcended, so it's a record. It kind of locks in the essence of that person, who that person was. So I always tell my artists, look, give it your authentic best, because it's going to be there forever. It will be there forever. So anytime I'm making my songs, I mean, I've recorded probably about 70 or 80 original songs now. I make sure that I do it to the best of my ability.
Okay.
It's not even about how successful the song is, because a song can blow up after 5 years, can blow up after 10 years,
Crazy.
20 years.
Crazy.
Yeah. And it's not even necessarily about the song blowing up. I had I commented on somebody's Facebook post just a few days ago, and he was talking about how in university, he was so much into music. He had his studio. He was recording, I think, in KNUST, and then he was studying architecture, and then he had to give it up. Right, so he's one of the top architects in Ghana now, but he had to give it up, and he still feels some way. Because music is still in him. He says, look, he still has songs that when he's in the shower, he has so many songs in him.
That wants to come out.
So I said, yeah, I was the same way. I've walked away from music. I've come back so many times. And I said, look, I made the decision in 2017 because we closed DKB basically.
Okay.
Made a decision in 2017. I told Rush, look, let's just get back into it. Not for the money. We have other ways of making money. Get back into it because it's calling us. You can't run away from that calling.
Okay.
So I posted a comment on the guys after he posted, and I said, look, yeah, I decided to get back into it. I'm making the music for me, and whether it impacts somebody or not. And then somebody else commented and said, look, one of your songs, I was on the verge of suicide.
Wow.
I heard your song. I had to leave the office, go to the beach and just cry listening to your song because it spoke directly to me.
There's a message.
Yeah, the song is called Not Where I'm Meant to Be.
Not Where I'm Meant to Be.
So it's a song where I was speaking from my heart that, sometimes in life, I think we all face it. You feel like you haven't achieved what you were supposed to have achieved. Yeah, whatever, maybe you're successful or not or whatever, but we all have that feeling that we should have done more or we could have done more if we were more serious or if we didn't do this or made that decision. So for me, that was enough. Just knowing that I've made a difference to somebody's life through my music and prevented them from ending their life.
That's amazing, man.
You see, so for me, that makes it worth it.
And that very song that you were writing, when you got into the booth, started recording that song, did you even think it would get to?
Nope, not at all. I mean, it's one of the songs which I didn't even think people really knew it. So it's when he said it, and I was shocked. But it made it worthwhile. You understand?
Amazing.
So every artist, you are giving your spirit.
Yes.
It's like you are freezing your spirit into that music
great.
forever.
David Bolton is my special guest today on the show, man. I'm enjoying every bit of this conversation, every single bit of it. And I'm sure he head straight into the comment section. He has a song out, the one that we did the interview on Hits FM. I want production kindly put the link. I want to get it, the title of that jam. Hold on. Let me get it for production right now. So say then go. That is, let me try. And it has animation to it. And you told me that the animation on when we had the interview, you told me that that animation was done by
by Barry Husseini. Yeah, Ghanaian.
a Ghanaian.
Yeah,
They did an animation to it. Production is also trying to learn animation, so we like for Len come up to. So let me try. We'll insert it. The song was released last year. Last year we sat on Hits FM and had a conversation on it. Yeah. Amazing tune. Just click on it. Just watch the video, and then we'll continue the conversation. But what led to you guys deciding that you're done with the music industry in Ghana? You want to wrap up? Because this is a big conversation. I'm somebody that is huge on investors and investor confidence.
Right.
Because I believe if we want to have a flourishing music industry, we need investors. Yeah. Music is run on money. You can't, talent alone is not enough.
Yeah, yeah.
What made you guys decide to?
I think basically that was one of the reasons that, as you say, that time we were in the studio 24/7. I mean, we were literally running shifts where I would go take a nap. Rush would be recording vocals and this, that. And so it got to a point where you kind of get burnt out. Yeah. And then when you realize that you see these artists and nothing is really happening. Yeah, they're getting popular. They're getting some fame and a little bit of money, some coins and all that. But as you say, there's no major investment into the industry. So you're kind of falling into that stereotype where a parent will say to their child, don't be a musician.
Yeah. Don't
be a musician. So it's like that with football. I remember when I was younger, parents didn't want you to be a footballer. But if you look at football where it is now,
crazy.
Footballers making millions of pounds a month.
Yes.
Then every parent now is like, oh, you want to play football? Play.
Yeah.
So music hasn't gotten to that point because the structures are not there. People are not investing into music in this country. It's different outside, very, very different outside. So yeah, so I kind of got burnt out. Couldn't see where we were heading because you're working, and you're not really seeing the progress,
the growth.
Yeah. So after a while, you kind of get burnt out, and it's happened to a lot of the the producers and the artists. They end up having to go into take a job, going to change their careers, that sort of thing. I mean, fortunately for me, I always had the IT.
Okay.
So that was always my foundation.
Okay.
So when it came to like making money,
that is where you make your money.
Make money from IT without a problem. Wow. But when you see that, some of these artists, they have all these hopes and dreams, and you're there encouraging them, and then you realize that there's no way for them to go.
So what were you initially when you started? What was the projection for the artists that you were recording? What were you thinking they could have been?
The idea was for them to be able to be the next Osibisa.
Okay.
You understand? So for them to be able to break the bounds of Ghana and then become international artists. So that was always my hope. And it's been done before, not just once. It's been done a few times in Ghana. And it's being done now with the Nigerians. So it can be done.
Why are we still not getting it?
It's as you say, investment. Look, it takes to promote. If you want to promote one song properly, globally, yeah. Let's say a Rima or along those levels, you need about $1.5 million.
$1.5 million
for one song.
For one song.
If you wanna do it
Successfully
properly.
around the world.
Yeah. You need that. And even with that, there's no guarantee
that you're going to make
it will
that
be a
money
hit.
back.
You understand? But without that, unless you're very lucky, it's not going to go anywhere. You understand? Because it's all about awareness, brand awareness. You know, you take KFC, for instance.
Okay.
You cannot drive from your office to your house without seeing probably 10, 20 KFC signs.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to your house, you're feeling for KFC.
Exactly.
You understand? So even maybe that day you don't buy the KFC, but it's top of mind. Top of mind. Coca-Cola, the same thing. You know, they are there in your face all the time. And that's how business is. You have to, brand awareness, you have to be top of mind.
Okay.
And it's the same thing with music. So if you see these Nigerian artists popping off now, it's not because necessarily the music is any better than ours. Because it's not. Really, it's not. Yes, you can argue production quality, mixing quality and mastering quality. But again, that's a function of money.
Yes.
Yeah, you take somebody like Davido. He will get his songs mixed by the top mixing engineers who mix Beyonce stuff.
Yes.
Who mixed, Rihanna. They're the same guys working on their tracks. Because these guys know that if I use Rihanna's mixing engineer and mastering engineer, one, the quality is going to be world class. Two, the name of that mixing engineer is behind the credits.
Yes.
That is going to open the doors.
Gives you some form of leverage, yeah.
So this mixing engineer knows this DJ who will open the doors to get this song, knows this club owner.
Yes.
You see, and then they understand it's about pushing. And it's not a one record project. It's not a 2 record project. It takes a number of songs
to get it there.
To get it done. Before you then become, look at Davido. He paid Chris Brown a lot of money to feature him.
Yes.
Right? It wasn't for free. It wasn't because he liked him.
Yeah.
He paid him. He didn't make his money back on that song.
Never.
Not at all.
He's never going to do it.
No. But he made his money back on the other songs after that because featuring Chris Brown opened so many doors for him with labels, with radio, with Spotify, it opened the floodgates. So it's about having that long-term view and having the funding behind you. One thing about Nigerians, they support their own.
Okay.
I'm recording a Nigerian currently in our studios, and he kind of he sounds like Flavor.
Okay.
Yeah, he has that kind of touch, that bit of high life and all that. He's a talented guy. He came into the studio, and I saw him. I thought, it's another one of these guys wants you record you for free. You need help. I get it every single day. Every day I get about 10 songs and artists asking for help. So it gets a bit some way after a while. Where every day they're sending you songs. Boss, I'll make you money. I'm the next.
Well, support me.
Support you. So I asked him now. Okay, so what have you done? What have you done? And it's like, no, the industry make hard. I need your support. This guy, sorry man, that's like this guy. So I gave him our rates, the studio rates, and our studio is not cheap. It's not cheap. It's a world-class studio.
I've seen it.
Right? So this guy calls up, starts speaking. I think he's from, I think he's Yoruba. I can't remember, but he starts speaking in some Nigerian dialect to some guy. And then the guy's like, give him the phone. So he puts the phone, he says, boss, how much now? How much now? As I mentioned the figure. Bing, sent it on my Momo. Within 2 minutes. You understand? So they have this system of supporting their own. There's some businessman who just believes in this boy that if he can support him and this boy makes it, he can hit
Be
his
proud,
chest and say,
yeah. I support, I discovered this guy.
And that is enough for him. He's not even looking to necessarily make that money back. He wants, because they're proud of who they are as Nigerians. We need to develop that here. Yeah, we don't have that mentality, that culture.
That sense of patriotism.
Yeah. We don't have it, unfortunately.
What do you think has accounted for that? Issues these, eh?
I don't know what it is. It's difficult to.
I believe it's also a mix of, there are political lines in there,
Yeah, but I think Nigerian politics is
far
more rough and this thing and divided.
They even have a very, very bad economy. I mean, but then the music is thriving.
Yeah, the music is thriving. And you see, and that is a source of pride for them. Just as Jamaica having Usain Bolt, for instance, that was a huge source of pride.
Yeah.
Yes, it brought millions of dollars into the country because he brought the limelight back to Jamaica.
Yeah.
So Jamaica was not just about reggae. There's more to it. But that source of pride, that Usain Bolt is one of our own.
Yeah.
That's what we need to have in this country. And unfortunately, most of us want to leave the country. Yeah. So how can you be proud of your country when you want to leave it?
We want to Japan.
Yeah.
David Bolton is my special guest today on the Loud Lounge. We're having a conversation about music. And just so you know, let me ask you this before we wrap up on this session. With Hip Life being 30 years, and I'm sure you've seen every single player in the hip life industry and era. There's this conversation that popped up, and I think Ochiame Kwame was of the view that if we were talking about the greatest of all time, I don't know if you chanced on it, he would put Sarkodie in that spot.
Right.
Now, you have worked with talent. Greatest of all time is that conversation. If I present that file onto your desk and you have a pen in front of you to list your top 5, how would they look like?
Man, I would pass, because what I believe is every person has something unique to them.
Okay.
Right. So if I listen to, I keep on mentioning the same sax, Stonebwoy, but even if I listen to someone like, let's say, Lyrical Joe, or any rapper, they all have something different to offer, and they all bring their own flavor. They have good songs, they have bad songs. So I find it difficult to lump artists together, in that way, because it's like mixing orange and apple juice. They're two separate things. So, people are saying that Reggie is the best of all time. Reggie is a great legend, and I mean, the guy is like up there. Sark is also there, right? They're not the same, right? And I can't say
Different
that
times.
one is better than the other. Yeah, they're different eras. But if they came together and did a song today, it would be fire. You understand? So for me, I don't think it serves any purpose.
So the conversation of the greatest of all time, you don't believe is a good conversation?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. I think it's good in that it keeps the interest in the craft.
Okay.
Yeah. So these things, it's like having beefs, like the beef with
rap beef,
Kendrick and Drake.
Yeah.
That was all designed to
whip up interest
to whip
again.
Up interest in the industry.
Yeah.
They realize that it's getting cold. So they need to bring. And they realize that it's no holds barred. So they're going at it.
Okay.
But you think that they don't call each other behind closed doors
They're
So
probably
yeah,
chilling and then looking at the streams and
it's
enjoying
like our
the money.
politicians,
Yeah.
NDC, MPP.
Yeah.
When you see them in parliament, oh, they're like best friends, But when we see them,
Yeah,
oh
always
no,
arguing.
you think
As
they're
if
the
they hate each
worst
other.
enemies, but no, it's not like that.
Okay, so but then let me ask you this. There's also been rap beefs, undoubtedly in hip life.
Mm-hmm.
The Bradford Lord Kenya beef, one classic. At some
Right,
point, the
right,
LK,
right.
do you want to try
Yeah,
that era?
yeah.
We also have the Ochame Kwame,
Mhm.
Bradford rap beef.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, people are saying that Charlie, the greatest of all time or the best lyricist would be Bradford, looking at, and they want to base it on his influence in the culture,
Right,
the rap culture.
right.
But then squaring off on TV3 on that fateful day, I don't know if you've seen it, right?
No, I
No, you've
think
not
so.
seen. Okay,
No.
so it was on ISO show,
Okay.
and then Bradford and Ochame Kwame, classic, all-time classic.
Hmm.
They sat down just like this setting, and then ISO was in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
and they did freestyles. Anytime we post this video back, anytime there's still that conversation that Bradford and Ochame Kwame, Charlie, this one whip this one, or this one will feel whip this one. But
Yeah.
who do you think would be your lyricist? I mean, dope lyricist. Dopest. Like you can really connect because you've worked with a Bradford, you've worked on different projects on Hammer.
Yeah, yeah.
Even basing it on artists on the last two. Let's just focus on the last two productions.
You see, what people love about Obrafo is the way he can play with such deep meanings
Mhm.
of his lyrics. There's a lot to be said with that, but there's also a lot to be said with people just using wordplay.
Okay.
I see Ochame Kwame as more along those lines.
Yeah.
So it's more, I won't say superficial, but it's more obvious.
Mhm.
Where Obrafo, you have to maybe think deeply about something, and then it has maybe 2 or 3 different meanings depending on what happens. I won't say one is better than the other because sometimes just being direct, you get your points across. Yeah. Sometimes you're being indirect, you might miss it.
Yes.
You understand? So and don't forget, different people think at different levels. Yeah. So again, take someone like Kofi Kinata. I mean, the guy is deep. He's deep, but I think he manages to play both at the direct way and playing,
deep as
deep.
well.
Yeah. So I think again, everybody. I don't want to be pulled into that saying one is better than the other because I can't judge.
You can't
Get
judge
me? I can't because I don't have that talent. I can't do what they do. Yeah, I can't write at that level.
Okay.
I can't rap. Yeah, I sing. So once I can't do what you do, I don't think I'm in a position to say that this is better than that.
Okay.
I don't.
You don't have enough knowledge about
exactly,
it to critique that.
Yeah, I know. I enjoy both of them.
Okay.
Right, for different reasons, and maybe in different
and at different
moods.
times. Yeah,
different times, and all that. So so even like those times they used to compare Tic Tac with Obrafo.
Obrafo, yeah.
Tic Tac, man, that the energy the guy had, that brought to the songs, that energy, Obrafo didn't have it. He had a different type of energy.
Okay,
you understand? So you can't
compare them.
Yeah.
They are just two different people, and then okay. So anyway, as we wrap up, let me ask you this: from DJ's perspective, we listen to music, we critique music because based on the sound quality, the lyrics, everything about it, we have to critique it. For mixing, mastering, and production, your level, how is it like? I mean, working with artists and getting your message across. Because I mean, as DJs, we might use a medium like I mean, a personal phone call, or might have a platform like this where we talk about it. But now, several artists that I have relationship with, some out of the view that you look, talking about a song on radio, critiquing it on radio or in a public space, really doesn't go down well with us. I mean, I know if you've heard about some of these complaints from artists. How do you get your message across to them? I mean, as mixing, producing, or mastering, how do you get a message across to them like, look, the files where you left for here, there, it be some way. How do you do that?
Most of the time, I'll just reject the work and refuse to work with you. Because the thing is, look, we are in every profession.
Yeah,
there are standards.
Okay.
Right? If you're going to be an electrician, there are standards that you have to follow so you don't kill yourself. Right? If you're a mechanic, there are standards.
Yeah.
So why do we think that music, that the rules don't apply? There are standards in music, right? In production, in the way you lay your vocals, the quality. There are standards, right? And if you think that because you're an artist, you don't have to follow standards, you break the rules. Fine, you can break the rules, but at the end of the day, 100 hertz is 100 hertz.
Yeah.
20 kilohertz is 20 kilohertz. Right? You still have to follow the rules in between all the frequencies.
All the frequencies that they're in.
Otherwise, the music will sound rubbish. Yeah. So it's I think that's a big issue we have right now, because people are not being trained in the art of creating music.
Okay.
And in the science of creating music. They're not being trained.
Okay.
So they are just doing what they think is best.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's a.
So when you
big
critique
problem.
it, you will just leave it. You will not work with it.
I mean, I'll tell them what I need to be done.
Okay.
So beforehand, I mean, we worked on a project. One of our projects is with it's called the Continent Live project. We just put out an EP a few months back.
Okay.
So I worked with a number of, I think there were 25 artists. We had a number of producers on it. And
under DKB?
That Prime Media Entertainment.
Prime Media, okay.
Yeah, is our is DKB is now PME.
Okay.
Prime
DKB is now PME.
Yes.
Oh,
Prime
nice.
Media Entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah. So so I just sat down, did a simple document, had a Zoom meeting, said these are the standards, this is the bit depth, this is the sample rate, this is this. I need everything to this standard. I need it labeled. So when you were clear from the beginning, everybody did what they were supposed to do.
Okay.
Some of them, it took them 2 or 3 times, but it made the process straightforward.
Okay.
You see, and they learned something so that when they're now, if they get the opportunity to work with a Timberland, or a Scott Storch in the US, they know the standards now.
That's the international standard.
So for them, it's if we don't pass on our knowledge, how do you expect them to know it? You understand? It's. I think we are the problem, to be honest, because we stopped teaching music in school. Right? We're not passing down
knowledge,
the experience and knowledge that we gained. So how do you expect the next generation to improve upon what you've done?
Okay. To understand it, understand it, and then improve.
Yeah. You have to start, everything is, you're standing on the shoulders of the previous generation. And then you get higher and you get higher and you get higher. If you look at science, all science is based upon what has been known before.
Yes.
The same should apply to art, to music.
Yes.
So if we, as the so-called gatekeepers in the industry,
we're not expanding it.
If we don't want to teach and pass on what we know, don't complain about it. Don't criticize it.
Great. Talking about passing on knowledge, let me ask you this. How do you feel about it? Because I chanced on a video of one gentleman arguing his way out that there's been doctored information about the last two and how their dominance, because most of the narration is from one perspective. I mean, talking about Hammer being the lead person, and people say, "Oh, Hammer, the last two is the sound of hip life, or the sound of that conversation." That person was of a view that look, it's not so. I mean, there are people who are equally involved in the process that have not been credited enough. And I can read the inlay of most of the productions that you've done, where it's clearly written that you've been given the credit, but it's like top of mind is not really there. That
Right,
David Bolton, the DKB or now PME, they've contributed XYZ to it. How do you feel about that?
I don't feel any way
You
because
you don't you
because
don't
at the
really
end of
care
the
about
day,
the credits.
I know what I've done.
Okay.
You understand? And me telling or me knowing or making sure that somebody else knows that this was my contribution, it doesn't change anything.
Okay.
You get me? I've done what I've done.
You would rather want to be in the background.
It's good to be recognized.
Okay.
Right? It's good to be recognized, but I don't think it's good to fight for recognition.
Okay.
You understand? I mean, look, we are talking now.
Yeah.
You understand? So as I say, the truth always comes out in the end. So I mean, it's like I was saying, my dad was a great marketer. My dad used to sell me to all the TV stations and radio stations and all that, and got me hundreds of interviews. Left to me alone, I wouldn't do that. I'm not that type of outgoing, You get me? So it's important to have both.
Okay.
Hammer is the best marketing person you can get in your organization. Man, the guy can sell ice to Eskimos. He is, he's somebody that if you have have him on your team, you're sure that it's going to succeed.
Yes.
Because brand awareness will be up there. Yeah. So the fact that maybe he's taking credit for all of that, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, was it a success? Is it a record that now, if somebody plays Asam Sebe or Who Born You by Mistake or any of the Mami song, for instance, that was a song that I produced.
Okay.
Hammer wasn't even involved in that. So when I look back, I know what I've done. Yeah, and I don't need
you don't need any
the accolades.
Okay.
It doesn't do anything for me really, because I'm not even looking at the past. I'm always looking forward.
Okay.
I'm always looking at what can I do next?
Okay, so his argument was on the line of as it is passing down knowledge and having a well documented, history with respect to, because he believes that, we don't have to have a corrupted history when it comes to our musical journey. Because I mean, a country that doesn't celebrate its heroes is not really worth dying for. And I mean, a genre like Hip Life, or even our music culture, not just even hip life. I mean, our music culture, if we don't have a proper documentation of people who contributed to success of several projects, it will really deter a lot of people from even, trying to enter into that field and pursuing it.
Yeah, I mean, but again, it comes down to who we are as Ghanaians. You ask the average Nigerian who Fela is, they will be able to tell you his life history, right, from beginning to end. You ask the average Ghanaian who Kojo Entry is, they won't be able to.
Some Rastaman be there somewhere.
They won't be able to tell you his life story. Meanwhile, they're at the same level, really. You get me? They're at the same level, but we as Ghanaians, we don't seem to celebrate our own successes. We see it as somehow competition, that somebody else's success is my failure. You get me? That instead of saying that their success also shines upon me, so that if I go to America and I say, oh, I'm from the same country as Kojo Entry. And they say, wow, then you can even lie and say, yeah, he's my friend. I used to hang out with him all the time. You get me? That's be proud of who you are. Be proud. I think that's a big issue that we need to look at, how we change the way we view ourselves. I think that's it. And then, every story, when there's a documentary, it always has to be, the story has to be simplified, right? Bob Marley, for instance, when I watched his movie recently, there were so many things I didn't know about him, right? That possibly would make me like him less
Okay.
because you're now seeing the other side of the person. You see. So yeah, sometimes with these things, it's about preserving, polishing it more.
Okay.
You get me?
Okay.
And if you complicate the story too much, sometimes it's difficult to understand. So it's understandable. It's maybe not the best, but it's understandable.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, David Bolton, amazing conversation. I enjoyed every bit of it. But then you, PME, are you signing artists?
We are, yeah.
You are signing artists. You
are.
have artists that you're working with.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so
but again, we're keeping it low key for
you
now.
keep it
So
low key.
you'll hear about it when we've actually been working at this for 3 years now, and you know, we put together the studios. We've been working on a few projects and so on. So I like to talk about things when they're actually
ready.
Cooked, when it's cooked.
Okay.
Not now that you're chopping your onions and garlic and things, because you don't know if the fire is going to be hot enough or not. So let's wait until things are ready to be eaten. Then I'll tell you what's really going on.
Thank you, sir, for honoring our invitation.
Oh, thank you too.
You can head straight into the comment section. We have pinned over there, David Bolton. Let me try. That should be the latest project. Or if you have a latest project, now I know of.
Oh, I've released probably since Let Me Try. I think I've released about 15 songs.
15 songs. Then I'm missing out. I have to check on it. But then we'll put all of them, the links in our comment section. Head straight there. Just check them out. Every single one of them. Let us know what you think and keep it real, because the street is always what? Watching.